As we thank God for the opportunity to be together, to share in these blessings of our lives and the majesty of our world, we'll pause for a moment as we thank God for not only this moment, but for the opportunity to learn together and to grow together. I want to call on our temple president, Dennis Eichelbaum, to share a few words.
Chag Sameach. It's wonderful to see so many of us gathered together again. For those of you online, we are pleased that we can all worship together as a community, live and virtually. So, new? This past year, I've had the joy of welcoming so many people back into this building and seeing so many familiar faces. Each time I enter Temple Shalom, I see people I've recently met and people I've known for over 30 years. So, the rabbi's walking in the forest, and feeling close enough to God, he asks, God, what is 1,000,000 years to you? God replies, my son, 1,000,000 years to you is like a second to me. The rabbi asks, God, what is $1,000,000 to you? And God replies, my son, $1,000,000 to you is less than a penny to me. It's almost nothing. The rabbi asks, so God, can we have $1,000,000 for the annual fund? And God replies, in a second. Here's where I know I'm supposed to talk about giving to the annual fund, which we all should. The annual fund is what helps us bridge the gap to pay not just our programming, but for the cost of our community. I presume for all of us, our bills have all gone up. Would you believe it costs to keep this building cool for this month alone the equivalent of 2 families paying full dues? The cost of fellowship can be expensive, but it is worth it. And please give whatever you can to the annual fund. As past President Eric Stock used to say, give until it feels good. Let me begin by thanking Rabbi and Cantor and Mandy for all the work they have put in preparing for the high holidays. Preparation begins on these particular services in June, and we are all in for a special high holiday season. Thank you to our high holiday director, Rashad Callahan, accompanist Chris Brunt, and the choir for all that you bring to our high holy days. Thank you also to all our ushers, including Bob Weinfeld, who's now been doing this 58 years, and our security personnel. If you have yet to meet our new executive director, David Lambden, you are in for a treat. He has already made his positive mark on the congregation. Behind the scenes, the preparation for high holidays was led by David and his team of Monica, Lisa, Joy, Heidi, Michelle, and Donna, along with Steve, Eric, and Slava, who make sure we are all comfortable every time we get together. They have been part of our community for so long that we all know them by their first names. Last Sunday, our marvelous Debbie Niederman and all our religious school teachers and Ozream gathered together to kick off another year of Sunday school. This marks Temple Shalom's 58th year of studying Torah as a congregation. Please join me in thanking all our staff who work tirelessly on behalf of our Temple community. Our community is doing so many great things: our garden, our auxiliaries, our religious school, our preschool music class. You can read about all of that and more in our monthly newsletter and our weekly emails. Every year, the president gets up and talks about the many wonderful programs and all the activities, and every year someone says, you forgot to mention such and such. Every president knows what this feels like. Well, I'm not a golfer, and last year I forgot to mention the golf tournament, which ended up having its most successful fundraising year yet. So, this year I'm not going to talk about it at all, so it can have an even better year. Although it will take place October 9th. And if I were to talk about it, I'd say you should definitely participate and be a sponsor. What I want to focus on this year is our community. It is something each one of us can rejoice in. We have created a community for which we should all be proud of. We often take for granted these now 50-year-old walls, our exactly 1-year-old screens, these prayer books that we read once a year. But the sad reality is, believe it or not, synagogues all around the country are struggling. Some Jews are not joining congregations because why join something when you come to services for free? When they can meet people online? When they can watch a TED Talk on the Mishnah from the comfort of their bed rather than participating in Torah study? And that may be fine for some individuals, but they miss the tradition and fulfillment of a Jewish community. When we lose someone, it is meaningful and comforting that our Temple Shalom community rallies around us. So we are not alone. Our simchas are more joyful because we celebrate them with our community. I like to call this the cheers effect. We at Temple Shalom are part of something where everybody knows your name. It is an amazing thing in this virtual-driven world today to go someplace besides work or home and have friendly people greeting and sharing their life with you at an oneg, a temple event, and at high holiday services. It is comforting to know that when we are down, when we need comfort, our community will gather together for a shiva to help those that need a boost, to be with those that just need companionship. Our strong community shares a culture, a heritage, a tradition, and a thoughtfulness that positively impacts each of our members. Temple Shalom affirms the richness of individual diversity as well as common human ties that bind us together. I'd like to share a few photos with you. When your photo comes up, if you would please stand. That's Julie Gothard. Julie, Sander, and Rabbi Roseman of blessed memory. And Julie, Sander, and their children, Michaela, Lindsay, Jeremy, as well as Julie's mother, Risa, and her stepfather, Ken Portnoy, of blessed memory. Louis Marks. Louis and Ace. Louis's mother, Jackie, Ace, and his wife, Kim, and most of the family, Ace, David, Harrison, and Scarlett. Robin and Mark Herbert. And their family, Layla and Dylan. Jennifer and David Arndt with Rabbi Roseman. Laney Arndt, cousin Benjamin and his girlfriend. Chris and Leon Harris, Jennifer and David with their family, their children, Ellen and Hannah. And Emma Darling and her husband James, their children, Sophie and Micah. These are just a few examples of our multi-generational families that have been raised at Temple Shalom. Temple Shalom is that village, that community that raises families and everybody knows your name. Unlike some congregations, in the Temple Shalom community, you actually notice when there's a new face. And we do our best to meet and greet them and welcome them to be part of our community. Davening and dining, Munchkin Minyan, we open the doors of our community that we have built, the safe, warm, inviting community that each and every one of us in this room is responsible for having created and sustained. Neither the divisiveness of politics nor a global pandemic have been able to break our spirit and our community. One cannot measure the value of what we get as being a member of this community. You've heard that membership is priceless, and I personally can vouch for that. Last year, out of nowhere, that value raised my awareness and opened my eyes to a new perspective that I had never thought about. Many of you know that of all aspects of Judaism and temple life, services are not always my favorite part. Okay. Well, last year, as I was listening to Rabbi Paley's sermon during Rosh HaShanah, his wisdom and words profoundly changed my life. I have thanked him for this individually, and I now wish to thank him publicly. My children were raised at Temple Shalom, and now each is an adult member. When Rabbi Paley spoke of blessings last year, he spoke of the blessing of time and presence. His amazing words made me think and realize that my current life truly is a blessing. My parents, when they were alive, they lived in Savannah, Georgia. My sister and her 7 children lived in Israel. My family's in Texas. They lived a great distance from most of their children and grandchildren, and I always found it strange when they would tear up as we would leave after a visit. My parents never once had the opportunity and joy of sitting down with all their children and all their grandchildren for one meal. I have the opportunity to do it nearly every week. What a blessing. I know that not everyone's children live in town or necessarily have joined a synagogue, but we have the opportunity to continue to build this community so that it is here for them if they choose. Whether we receive wisdom, companionship, friendship, comfort, or an epiphany that makes us realize how blessed we are, all of this is available and comes from being part of this amazing community we call Temple Shalom. I hope, like me, you recognize and appreciate what a blessing we have in the Temple Shalom community that we've all created. Now, I said Temple Shalom is a place where everybody knows your name, or at least tries. I don't want to get caught on that later. Every Friday night, Rabbi invites the congregation to turn around and introduce them to someone new. I hope today you will take the time to reach out to someone whose name you do not recall. Each of us needs to share with unaffiliated Jews the beauty and warmth of Temple's community and invite them to join as we continue to build and invigorate our community. Making your way in the world today truly takes everything you've got. Some of you know where I'm going. And taking a break from all your worries, sure, that would help a lot. Sometimes you want to go where everybody knows your name. And at Temple Shalom, we're always glad that you came. Thank you all for being members of Temple Shalom's community. It has been my honor and privilege, along with my fellow board members, to serve Temple Shalom, a community where everyone knows your name.
Hi, I'm George Wendt, Norm from Cheers. Now, congratulations on building a temple community that is welcoming, friendly, and family-oriented. Temple Shalom, a congregation where everybody knows your name. Cheers.
L'Shana Tova.